them taking responsibility for their health. And so we have been actually doing a reset. So shout out to all of my reset group who did a phenomenal job doing a raw reset. Most of them stuck with the raw reset and did it 100% raw, which I was very proud of, seeing the things that they came up with, all of the wonderful meals that they came up with. So we are going to get into the conversation. As you know, before we start, we do need to do a little bit of housekeeping before we start. And so as you come into the conversation, just, I want this to be a conversation that we can all have together. So as you come in, just make sure that you just tell me how you feel about this topic. Tell me how you feel about what we're going to get into. But before that, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. So here at MaatSpeaks, this is all about creating balance within yourself, within your environment, within our community, using the principles of Ma'at, and there are plenty videos on the channel that go over those principles. There's 7 principles, and so we use those principles to go within first, right? And as we go within, we are able to help those around us using those principles. So whether it's our family, and then ultimately it's about building with our community, right? All right, so I always have a disclaimer as I enter these conversations, because a lot of us, well, I'm not going to say a lot of us, some of us, because if you come to my Speaks, I believe that you do have an open mind. You like to have conversations that challenge your thinking, right? But if you are new to my Speaks, you've never been to my Speaks, and this is your first time coming, and this is the conversation that has grabbed you, I want you to just understand that a lot of us have been given a filter that we are accustomed to seeing through. So I always ask that you think about the things that you are accustomed to, and that honestly we've been programmed to believe and to think, and that we have to reflect on those things. We do our own research, right? So I've done some research, but it is ultimately up to you to do your own research. So some will listen to this conversation and they may jump to defend it, right? Um, and and then not think about, it's so much that we don't know. It's so many things that I still do not know, right? Even as a holistic health guide, I still study, I still research. And so you study, you do your research before jumping to defend things that we do not know. All right. So here we always want to adduce a different perspective so that we can consciously heal. So it's very hard to heal from things if you're not aware that you need to heal from them, right? So here, MaatSpeaks was created so that we can heal ourselves, our community, and build with one another. A lot of reasons we are unable to build with one another is because we still need to heal that thing that is within us that keeps us from building with others that look just like this, right? So we want to create a world that our children, future generations do not need to heal from, that they come into a world that is already, in that sense, you're already kind of, healed, right? All right, so we're going to jump into the conversation. Before that, just remember there are several ways that you can donate to the channel. You can donate through Cash App, which is MaatSpeaks. Venmo is MaatSpeaks, and then the PayPal is GenerationalHealthRevolution. You can also donate by buying me a cup of tea, because I'm a tea drinker. And you can do that by going to buymeacoffee.com. Also, follow me on Instagram at GenerationalHealthRevolution. And also, I do have another channel, which is the Cycle Priestess. That's more of your holistic approach to fitness. So if you have not gone over there and subscribe to the Cycle Priestess channel, go ahead and subscribe to there. That's where I mostly put all of my vegan recipes. That's where most of my recipes are gonna go, because that's more of the physical aspects of healing are going to be on that page. All right, on that channel. All right, so As you know, also you can just help the channel just by liking. So right now, go ahead, like it. And also I believe the super chats are open. So you can also do, donate that way. And I think that's it. That's pretty much our housekeeping. So again, I want this to be a conversation that we can all, have a conversation. It's Sunday. So it's Sunday, and grab your favorite beverage and let's just vibe with one another tonight. All right. I want to shout out Keon. Peace, Keon. Saw you in here last time. Thank you for joining me again tonight. Peace to you. And my hubby, thank you for joining me as well. Greetings to you. Thank you for always your support and holding down the fort while I am on this live. All right, so we are going to jump right into the conversation. All right, so as you can see, what the conversation is about. So, you know, I want to preface this before I really jump right in. I want to, talk about what a lot of people may say, right, when having this discussion, right? Because it's very, I don't know, like, it says the number one vegan business in our community, right? And a lot of that is like, okay, so people click on the video. But I do believe it, and I'm going to tell you why that I believe that it is the number one toxic vegan business in our community. So I'm not just like, just being, you know, the word is just like, can't think of the word right now. But where a lot of people are like, oh well, you're be like there's a division that people say that is promoted within our community, right? So before I really jump into it, I want to just go ahead and explore some of the statements that I know people may say or may think as we're entering the conversation, right? So a lot of times when we are discussing what we consider to be poor behavior, toxic behavior in our community, a lot of people will say, well, we're being most critical of our own. We're most critical of our own, right? Or people will say, if we're going to criticize one another, we should criticize each other, especially if it's a Black woman, right? Behind closed doors. Or some people will say, hey, with the way that the world operates and how we're usually at the bottom, we should just congratulate on, us being successful in providing Black people with Black jobs, right? Because that's a big one, because a lot of times it's very hard for us, it's great when you have a business that is providing providing Black people with Black jobs, right? And so the other thing is, if there's something else you can think of, you can put in the chat. But there's so many things that people say, because also there's a lot tied to value, right? So if this person has money, if this person has prestige, if this person is promoted or pushed to the forefront, then they have value. And so with that being said, because they have value, a lot of people will say, well, we shouldn't be talking about them because you're not doing what they're doing, right? So this is what I say to those common things that are said, right? The worst, in my opinion, the worst kind of toxicity is the toxicity that comes from your own community. So people that look like you are able to influence you the most, right? That's why we have Black celebrities that are used to influence us, right? In the ads, commercials, because Black celebrities and Black people with fame or money, right? Money, fame, prestige, all that are placed in front of us so that they can continue so that we can continue to believe in the illusion, right? And so if you don't realize, we talk about it all the time, like the matrix, the illusion, whatever it is, right? So because the longer you believe in this illusion alone, as long as you believe in what's in front of you, you have the Beyoncés of the world, right? You have the Jay-Z, I mean Beyonce and Jay-Z, right? A power couple. You have those people in front of you who are billionaires, right? As long as you believe that that is attainable, the longer you stay tuned in and refuse to kind of fight against the status quo, right? Now, a lot of us may not even really care about that, right? But there are certain things in our atmosphere that will continue to help us believe in this illusion, to believe in this 3D world, right? So if we believe in it and we believe that it's attainable, we believe that being a millionaire or is attainable. And I'm not saying that those things are not attainable. I do believe that those things are attainable, but it kind of keeps us um quiet and not really fighting for certain things that we think that we should fight for, right? And so that's why I believe when it comes to toxicity, toxicity is toxicity no matter where it's coming from, right? So if something is presented to you as good and wholesome but it's actually toxic, that is to me the worst kind of toxicity. And I want to shout out TW Popcorn. What's poppin'? Thank you for joining me. Always good to see you. Always good to see you. Peace, peace. All right, so I'm gonna jump into it because the thing that we talked about as we were doing this wellness series, and we talked about it last live, and I talked about it the live before, is ritual, right? And so, from this African perspective, food is and has always been a ritual, even from the way that we flavor our food. And I think that is missed on a lot of people because when we talk about how other cultures lack flavor in their food, we don't realize where that really comes from. It does not just come from the fact that we have a different, we do taste our food differently. Okay. So we do taste our food differently, which makes us flavor our food differently. But we also know that a lot of different spices were linked to different rituals, right? And so it's very important that we understand that even the way that we flavored our food was a ritual, right? So different spices served a particular reason. For example, you might have something like cayenne pepper, and it might have been used in, understandably, we use different things for different reasons. Like you can take one plant and you know that that plant can serve many different things, right? So if you use like cayenne pepper, for example, it might use to clear negative energy or some type of energy block within you, right? It might be used to relieve negative emotions or negative entities or, things like that, right? The physical side of cayenne pepper, though, it reduces inflammation. It aids the nervous system, right? It's kind of like the whole concept of ginger. Everybody on social media talks about ginger and ginger ale, and people would make jokes and say, "Well, actually, it is true that ginger ale is actually very medicinal, so it can cure everything." Well, yeah, there's truth to it because the actual ginger root, right? Because you don't want all that sugar and everything else that comes with ginger ale, but the actual ginger root can heal you physically, right? But the actual ginger was also used for dream work, right? So you can see the connection of the physical to the spiritual, right? And as we spoke last live, there should not be a disconnect, right? Everything is intertwined, and that is why science is so important to these conversations when we talk about physical, when we talk about wellness, and when we talk about the spiritual, because those things are not disconnected. They're all intertwined. So we have to look at how we eat, how we get up, how we rise every day, how we eat. how we go to bed, how we engage with the people around us. We look at all of those things as ritual. And that is very important in this conversation because there are a lot of things in this particular business, in the business model, that is can be seen as a ritual that is um aiding our mindset in how we are operating in this physical realm. Okay. So it's very important that we understand the importance of ritual as far as our food goes. All right. So I just want to, I'm a word person. So I love to talk about like the etymology of the word ritual. So the etymology, when you look it up, it means customs or rites, right? So you even think about how people would, when you fast, right? That is when you are fasting, that's a ritual in itself. When you're eating certain foods, just like when we were just coming off of the raw reset, that is a ritual within itself, and it helps you connect deeper with yourself, right? Your food should always help you to connect on a more spiritual level. It's very, and I know a lot of people may say it's not that deep, but it is that deep, right? Because anything that manifests in the physical first manifested in the spiritual, right? That's why, and I've spoken about this many times. That's why when you get frustrated, you're getting frustrated on an emotional and spiritual level. But what does that frustration make you do? That frustration makes you go to foods that are going to be contrary to helping you. The key is picking the right foods that are going to help ease that frustration and not make you more frustrated or put a band-aid on that frustration. So a lot of times when people choose foods, they're choosing it to comfort them, to put a band-aid, as opposed to choosing foods that are actually going to help them get out of that frustration, right? And then what happens when you eat too much of a bad thing? It's going to cause more frustration, more ailments, more sickness, more disease, right? All right, so let's continue. All right, so I love this definition. It's from the historical study of African religion, and the definition of ritual, according to this particular definition, he said, is a dramatization of ideals, values, and expectations. So it's a bridge between ideas and practical daily life. I think that that sums up ritual so well, because when you think about anything that you are doing in the spiritual, like, so if you are getting in tune with yourself spiritually, right? So that could be meditation, that could be prayer, that could be doing your affirmations, right? So many things that we do, that could be offerings, whatever it is that you do as far as helping you spiritually, fasting, right? That is supposed to not just be for that moment, it's supposed to be helping you with your task in your daily life. So, for example, you're at work and work is overwhelming. So, you're supposed to allow those rituals to help you experience your daily life so that it does not be overwhelming. You can tap in to that source within to help you overcome. So whether that is your prayer, whether that is affirmations, whether that is meditation or breath work, right? Whatever it is, your ritual, your daily rituals are supposed to be how you practice your daily life, right? It should not be, the more we do our rituals, the more they become a part of who we are and how we engage with our environment, right? So that's why, if you have not really allowed yourself to experience um rituals on a day-to-day basis, it will be very hard for you to have those rituals become so effective in your daily life, right? So I really love that definition of ritual. So That is why it's very important. And this is with any business, any place that you're going to eat, even if it comes to you being the preparer of the food that you're giving to your family. It is very important that you check your energy before you are preparing food, right? So that's where we get a lot of our blessing the food, right? So a lot of us, a lot of people, they bless their food before they eat, which is, it's kind of funny to me how people are blessing poison before they put it into their body, right? It's like I'm gonna drink some rat poison, and and I say, Lord, bless this poison if it as it infiltrates my system, right? So, we see a lot of that, and that is why I have a hard time um with religion per se, right? Because a lot of people who are in who are in certain um systems, right? They don't put a huge emphasis on food, and how are you blessing food that is toxic. Now, you do have to have a very good understanding on what is toxicity and what is toxic food. Because on the last conversation, I did say we are being exploited because we have a lack of knowledge, right? That lack of knowledge aids us into being exploited, right? Right, TW Popcorn. All right, peace, Gerald. It's good to see you. Good to see you as always. Thank you for joining me tonight. Yes, bless this poison. Yes, so I mean, that's what we're doing, right? And so, we have, it's kind of we have a huge disconnect because we think that we can do toxic things and just pray it away, right? Or we can just affirm it away, or those types of things. And there's a lot to be said about how what comes out of our mouth and what we think, right? So that's a different conversation because we can get into like manifestation and the things that we speak and what we believe is what is, right? But let's continue, okay? Because we can't disconnect the spiritual from the physical. All right, so understanding that is a ritual, right? So when you go into a restaurant or you go to someone's home and they're preparing your food, it's very so just take because everything starts within. So as you're preparing your meal, or you're preparing a meal for your children or for your family, for your husband, whomever. Now, a lot of us do sometimes prepare our food out of frustration. So let's say you get off of work and you're frustrated and you're preparing your food. You can be in a frustrated state. And you know how a lot of people, after they prepare food, they feel better. Well, you have just transferred your energy into that food. That's why a lot of times people say, I feel so much calmer after I fix food. And that can be a good thing because it can be your therapy. But you have to understand who is now eating your energy, right? That is why veganism kind of exists, right? And we a couple weeks ago, we talked about the toxic truth of veganism, right? You can go and look at that video. But the truth is like a lot of people understand that energy transfer from the animals. That's why a lot of people are have gone to veganism or plant-based eating, or living what I like to call living foods lifestyle, right? And so that's very important. Even if you go into a restaurant, you have to understand you could possibly be absorbing those the people who are preparing your food energy, right? So from an African perspective, right, eating food since eating food is a ritual, right? From that perspective, food was never meant to be prepared in a rushed, non-focused way. Food was always meant to be prepared with intention and purpose. So I'm gonna tell you, when we first became plant-based, and I remember we were in North Louisiana, and that's where I'm from. And so we didn't have a lot of choices as far as plant-based food goes. So most of the time when we would eat plant-based food, as far as like going out to eat, we would have to travel. Yes, exactly. I'm getting there. See, you're getting ahead of me, TW Popcorn. And so it would be that we would go. I know one particular restaurant in Memphis, and I don't think it's open, and it was called Two Vegan Sisters. And it was so good, but they took a long time preparing the food. And you would be sitting there for a while. And I remember at first it would be like a frustration, right? Like, oh my goodness, it's taking so long for them to prepare our food. But then when you got the food, it was so good. And you were like, you could tell, first of all, it was made with whole foods, natural ingredients, right? You could see what it was made with. They put everything that they made it with on the menu. The menu was not a huge menu because they rotated the menu, I think, every week or every 2 weeks. And you could taste the different flavors of the food, and you could taste the intention, the love, and the fact that they cared so much about what they were putting in that food, and that it was about nutrition. It was about love, right? It was cooked with love. It was cooked with intention. Like, I can see here, I'm really sitting here thinking about the food that was made at this particular restaurant and other restaurants as well. But it was very, and the thing I loved about this particular restaurant, right? It was very small. It wasn't a lot of traffic going through there. And it did take time for you to get your food, but when you got it, it was so good. And you could feel the frequency of the food, right? That is the intention behind food. And as you sit down there with your loved ones, that's a ritual, right? So, on the other hand, if you're going to a restaurant that we all go to restaurants there, it's like it's fast paced. Everything, you even see people bumping into people, they bumping into you, and they bring their food out, it's rushed. And when you leave, you're like, it was good, but your energy is kind of off, right? So there's a difference between someone getting your food out to you fast because they're trying to get as many people out of that restaurant as possible, and someone actually taking the intention behind preparing your food, right? And so, with that, understanding the intention and the purpose between, even behind you cooking your own food and others cooking their food for you. And I tell people all the time, even if you go to quote unquote vegan restaurants, right, that are their main focus is on whole foods, that you still have to be understand that you don't know everything that they're putting in their food, and you don't know the energy behind it. For example, there was a lot of things that happened, especially at fast food restaurants, where people were getting sick after eating, and it was a what is it? I forgot what it was, but it was like a certain disease that people were getting because people weren't washing their hands. I forgot. If you know what it is, put in the comments. But they weren't washing their hands, as they were preparing or after they went to the bathroom and stuff like that, right? That's the same thing that we're talking about, because there's a certain way to, like, quote unquote, wash your energy, right? So if you're going to work, and let's say you don't even want to be at work, and you're preparing somebody's food, right? You've been to a restaurant where they've gotten attitudes with you, right? And that same energy is being transferred, and it might not have nothing to do with you, right? It's nothing to do with you. They're just in a not in a very pleasant place, but those same people are preparing your food, right? So let's continue. All right. So that is that's the ritual part that I want you to understand, and what a lot of restaurants, just period restaurants, but the one in particular that I'm talking about, I don't believe it has any intention or purpose in love or giving you good nutrition, right? So when you understand that plant food, right? So there's a lot of people saying plant-based now, right? And I talked about this last time. And plant-based just means, at this point, it used to mean actually plant food, but now it just means like it's based in plants. Like you have like one or two ingredients that are really an actual plant, and the rest are chemical, or they can be chemicals, right? And so, but we have to understand plant food is medicine, and plant medicine is food, right? So there is no disconnection. There is no disconnection between um, plant food and medicine, right? So, what do I mean by that? Is that when you are eating, right? When you're eating your food is your medicine, right? And so let's say you do, even, you get sick, you still go to Whole Foods, you go to the plant to help you get better. And then most of us who are on plant food most of the time, we know that usually we either don't get sick as often, or it's very quick, right? It's a very quick turnaround because your food is your medicine. But in this ideology that we're accustomed to, which I say is the European ideology, right? There's a disconnect. There's a huge emphasis on individualism. So it's very much tied to that you partake in toxicity, right? In moderation. Then when you do get sick, you go get a concoction from the store, from the doctor, that's filled with chemicals that patches the sickness, right? It doesn't alleviate the sickness. It doesn't get to the root of the issue. It just puts a patch on it, right? So that's why every year you might continue to get, you get sick every year at the same time, because you're putting a patch, right, on your sickness. Okay. So that's one thing that we have to understand when it comes to the disconnect, and why we see so many disconnect. So we talked last live with my sister Hanifa. We did talk about the toxic truth um of what do we talk about, like the holistic health, right? Of holistic health and the business side, which is all capitalism, right? So I don't take away anything from the fact that this was a good business plan, all right? So I want to say that, I want to preface, it's a great business plan, it's a great business model, but the totality of it is toxicity. That's just how I feel. That's what I know. And this is what this is. And like a lot of people say, okay, well, that's your opinion or whatever. But everything there should not be a disconnect from your physical, from your mental, from your emotional, from your spiritual, right? All of these things are intertwined and they're interconnected. So let's first look into the toxicity, the physical toxicity, right? So before I move on, the elephant in the room, right, is what I'm talking about, right? Is I'm going to go ahead and share the actual, because if you saw the thumbnail, you might already know what I'm talking about. But let me show you, right? And so we're going to get into this, right? So let me present video. Let's see. Da-da-da-da. Okay, share screen. All right. So when you look at this particular business, right? It's a great business model, right? Wonderful business model, I will say, right? But what does it promote? So let's get into the physical first, okay? So the physical, and when I say physical, I'm talking about what the product is made of, right? So we have the business is exclusively, which I didn't deep dive on it to see whether the business was like they have like a deal with Impossible Burger, but that's what they use. They exclusively use the Impossible Burger, right? And so when you go to the Impossible Burger website, it's very funny how they try to trick you. I'm sorry, to me it's a trick. So you go and you look at the ingredients. Now they don't list all the ingredients It's very hard. Let me say this. It's very hard to see the ingredients without like really deep diving, right? And so then when you go and you like, let's say you go into the store and you go and you look at the Impossible Burger, right? There are code words that are being used. So you don't really know that this particular, there's a chemical that is actually broken down into other chemicals, right? So you would have to like really research every one of the words and like, most people, and I do this when I'm in the store, I'll turn something over and I'll look at the ingredients and I'll take my phone out and I'll start researching, what is this? What is it made of? What does it do? What are the side effects? I don't care how long it takes me in the store. That's what I'm going to do. But when you go into a restaurant, right? um you have a very hard time doing that because they don't post those ingredients. And then sometimes they might not. I mean, I've called restaurants before and said, hey, I see you have a such and such burger on your whatever, what is that made of, right? Because sometimes they won't put that it's the Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger. They will actually only put that it is a vegan burger or a plant-based burger. Now, some people, so there's a like a Caribbean restaurant here in Atlanta that we'll go to, and it's made with whole ingredients, it's made with like black beans and stuff like that, right? And it's really good. So, there are things like that, right? So when I'm going to touch on some of the ingredients because there's like a gazillion ingredients in the Impossible Burger. And it's never about the whole ingredient. It's about also what it uses to produce the ingredient. So I don't want to get like too far in the weeds, no pun intended, but I don't want to get too far where I kind of lose some people, right? So I'm just going to touch on some of the things that you're going to see in the Impossible Burger. Now, one of the main ingredients in the Impossible Burger is soy, right? You see soy on the ingredients list like 3 or 4 times. They have like um it's on there 3 or 4 times, right? So you have water and then you have like soy protein or whatever. And then when you go down, there's other soy in there, right? Now, I'm not anti-soy actually, right? So I think that if you get organic, very specific now, if you get organic soybeans, that is okay in moderation, right? But they're not using organic soy. What are they using? They're using GMO soy. Now, if you go and you research and you go to the Impossible Burger website, they have a nutritionist and everything to make you feel like it's okay to be eating these products, right? That this is how they like really play with your head, right? But what they don't tell you is they don't tell you everything that they're putting in these products, right? So you have soy. And it's not even about soy that is so harmful. It's what is used to produce the soy. And it's not just the soy, there's a lot of things that they're using to produce it, right? So you have, I'm gonna make sure I say this right, glyphosate, glyphosate, right? Glyphosate, which is the herbicide, right? And it was funny. I thought this, I don't know. I don't think it's funny, right? I don't really want to say that it's funny. But this is what this is what the World Health Organization said, right? It's probably carcinogenic to humans. Little immune systems cannot handle layers of pesticides on their foods, right? So they're saying it's very harmful for little ones, right? It's very harmful because when you look at the article that this was written on, it actually says that little human beings, little people are not able to break down, their organs are not able to really break down the glyphosate, and it creates harm, right? So it's saying probably. So would you want to eat something that's probably carcinogenic? Like when a lot of people make excuses for things like that, but it doesn't make me feel secure when someone says it's probably carcinogenic to humans, right? So that is right, right, that is Agreed. Agreed. That is very sad. That's why I say, like, it's funny, but it's not, right? It's really not funny when you really think about it, right? And so we have to understand. So here's a little information when it comes to that particular herbicide, right? So if you've noticed in the past, I would say 15, maybe 15, 20 years. So this is a anecdote in my life, right? So before I was even way before I was like in my late 20s, before I even was even thinking about being plant-based. I was still very much a meat eater, but I would go to like the holistic health doctor or whatever every now and again or whatever. Like my mother would take me probably, once or twice a year. And so I remember going like in my late 20s, and she told me I was addicted to corn. I mean, not addicted. I was allergic to corn. Now, I had terrible, terrible allergies ever since I was little. All the way from I can't even, like, they would take me out. I would just take Benadryl and I would be out for a whole week just in the bed most of the time in the summer because my allergies were so bad. And I remember when I adopted a plant-based lifestyle, and I remember the first year I did not have allergies. It was like I don't know, it was just like it was the most amazing thing ever, right? So the fact that I got rid of my allergies was insane. But I remember when I went to the holistic doctor, she said, "Well, you have a allergy to corn." And I said, "Corn?" Because, I love me some cornbread. And she was like, "Most of the times, the things that you are most allergic to is the thing that you crave the most, right?" Also, I was addicted to cheese. Like, yeah, dairy. Dairy was a big one because I was really addicted. I was addicted. And, dairy has an actual chemical in it that makes you addicted to it, right? So that's a whole different conversation. But what would happen, so what I went and I researched it some more, and it was saying that the reason that so many people have gotten allergies from certain things like wheat, corn, soy, canola is one of them, the different oils, the different seed oils, is because of this herbicide, because it's so cheap, and it keeps the crops, right? You're using that for the crops. It's cheap, and also these things are the cheapest thing to make. So that's why, look at the back of your ingredients. What do you see mostly in most foods? You see corn, you see soy, even if it's soybean oil, you see wheat, and you see canola oil. Those are the things that are extremely cheap to make and to use, right? And so here we have this impossible burger that is has the soy, and soy is not, you can eat soy. People like we talk about all the time. Asians have eaten soy for hundreds of years, but you want it to be organic if you're going to eat it, which is not that's it's not organic in the impossible burger. And if you're going to eat it, you don't want to eat it. You want to eat it in moderation, right? If you're going to eat organic soy. And also, you have to understand that herbicide is that glyphosate is really what is toxic. Now, that's not just on the impossible burger. It's on a lot of different products. So if you look and you see that certain products that so you can look up what product mainly uses glyphosate, right? Look that up, and you will see the products that you normally eat that are using those. That's very important. That's why I say you have to take your nutrition in your own hands. All right. All right. So that's not it, though. Okay. That's not the only toxic product in the Impossible Burger, right? If you go, you see all of the chemicals in the list, right? So I want this one is what I learned, and I was like, wow, I never even knew this existed. So there is a way, there's something that they use to give the meaty taste. Now, if you look on the back of the Impossible Burger, you do not see this particular product, right? So I'm going to show you what it is. Um, okay. So, okay, here it is. Here's the article here. So, make sure y'all can see that. So, we have heme, right? So, heme, I just want to let me see if I can make it a little bigger. All right. So it's a potent hemolytic agent and it alters the conformation of cytoskeletal protein in red cells. Free heme causes endothelial cell injury, leading to vascular inflammatory disorders and stimulates the expression of intracellular adhesion molecules, right? So it's basically saying it will cause inflammation. Now, mind you, right? This is something that you're not going to find very easily. It's not like really listed on the site like that. You have to kind of dig deep to know that this is what gives it its flavor. Now we got to understand what heme is. It's also in a lot of other products like meat and stuff like that. That's why meat also causes inflammation. But here is what annoys me the most about this is that if I am a person who is saying, hey, you know what? I want to adopt a vegan lifestyle because I have high blood pressure, I have heart disease, and I know that I need to stop eating meat. And I go and I eat this impossible burger at Slutty Vegan because Slutty Vegan is promoting vegan lifestyle. What happens? Nothing changes because this product is still promoting inflammation, right? It's still promoting high blood pressure. Not and on top of that, the Impossible Burger has more sodium in it than actual beef. I'm sorry. I have a hard time with things that they say that they're promoting health, but it's not really promoting health, right? So when you look at the fact that this product, right, because we also have to understand processed meats period promote inflammation in the body. Inflammation is bad because that is where it's and I talked about this a few weeks ago. You can go look at the live where I talk about the truth of a raw vegan lifestyle, right? So when you are eating processed meats and processed foods and they promote inflammation, what happens is inflammation is why do we get inflammation? We get inflammation because our body is trying to repair itself. But if you stay in inflammation for too long, that causes chronic inflammation, and that's where we get chronic diseases. So I said last time, we can be exploited. We are exploited because of our lack of knowledge. And that is the biggest thing that I see a lot of business owners, right? I don't care what they look like, because we know that a lot of business practices that our people have adopted have not been adopted from an African perspective. They have been adopted from a European ideology. And European ideology, as far as, and if I have to be a martyr for the cause, I'm be a martyr for the cause, right? But from like that capitalistic mindset is about exploitation. In order for you to continue to grow, a lot of times you have to exploit others in their paradigm, right? I'm not saying all business owners are like that, but a lot of them are very parasitic. And the issue that I have, I'm going to go to the spiritual and emotional aspect of this before we end this conversation. But the issue that I have with a company like Slutty Vegan is that there are no go to the website, right? Where are the health conscious menu items, menu choices? That's the issue that I have. So for example, there's a plant-based pizzeria that we like going to here, right? Now, you can go get a pizza with all the fake meats on it, but you can also get a pizza with walnut meat on it, right? There's another restaurant that I like going to. Yes, you can get a Beyond Burger, but they also have a fully alkaline menu. But what happens with these particular restaurants? They don't get promoted as widespread as a place like Slutty Vegan, right? Because these places are also promoting, because they understand it. There's a balance, right? They understand the idea of transitional foods like vegan burgers, even though you know how if you watch the last couple lives, you know how I feel about um transitional foods. I don't really believe transitional foods are transitional foods. I believe they keep you boxed in to toxicity and toxic behaviors, right? Because the idea of what comfort food is, right? So I don't I, I'm not going to say, yeah, I'm going to say, as a holistic health guy, I will say it. You should not be eating fake meats like the Impossible Burger and the Beyond Burger. There's too many times that people have come to me, and I want to be clear. I want to be clear. I have eaten those burgers before. The very last time I ate a Slutty Vegan burger, I remember leaving. And I remember, I'm not leaving, but remember, getting it at home, eating it or whatever. And remember the feeling that I had after I ate it, right? It was not a good feeling, right? So understanding that if a restaurant is really for the if a business, let's not even say a restaurant, a business is really for the community and the promotion of health and the promotion of wellness in our community, there will be items on that menu that promotes wellness and that promotes nutrition. But where are they, right? And I had a very I, this is and here's one issue, that there's another issue I had, right? So I was trying to find the ingredients of each of the items, or like the most popular items. So you go to the website and it says, the ingredients are coming, we know that your health is important, ingredients coming soon. So then when you go, I'm going to show you what happens when you try to find the ingredients on the website. All right. So one moment, all right. So when you try to find the ingredients, let's go to, all right. So here you are, and you go to, I believe it's under facts. You go to facts and you go to, where can I find your nutritional facts? And that's where it says your health and awareness are important to us. We are currently working on our nutritional facts and calorie counts for all of our menu items, right? So then it says, where can I find your ingredients? So you click here, right? So you got to go to their Instagram to view it, right? So I'm going to view it as myself. And here it is, but it's like in a story, right? So it goes by really fast. Here, what do you see? Soy protein, canola oil, right? Um, it, every item has canola oil in it, you know, wheat protein. And again, I go back to what I've told you, what I've said before when it comes to wheat, corn, canola, all of these things. It comes back to the fact that these products, right? If they are not organic, if they are not non-GMO, they are toxic to your bodies, right? So we have to understand that, because of some people will say, "Oh, well, wheat is not bad or soy, but if it's GMO, it is. It's toxic to your body." That's why a lot of people have a gluten allergy right now. Like a lot of people have gluten allergies because of that chemical that is being used to produce wheat, right? So let's get to the spiritual aspects of this. All right. This is something that came to me, right? And it was like the last time I went in. I remember the very first time we went, me and my husband went to Slutty Vegan, right? And we were like, I remember when we ate the burger, we were like, it's okay. What? Because that was the time where it first came out and the lines were crazy. The lines were long. And so we went, and this was years ago, before we moved to Atlanta. And I remember thinking, this tastes like a Whopper, like what Burger King, like I remember Burger King tasting like. So then I found out that's the same burger that that's the same patty that Burger King actually uses for their quote unquote plant-based option on their menu. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? So anyway, so I remember not being like whatever about it. Now there's a thing that happens that they say happens when you wait in a line for a long time. They say a lot of people were promoting it so heavily because when you wait, there's a mental thing that happens when you wait in a line a long time or wait somewhere for a long time. It actually emphasizes you want it to be good, right? It's like a I don't know the psychological term for it, but you want it to be good. um you want it to be good, right? So the longer you wait in that line, the longer your mind is like, hey, this has to be good because I waited in this line for so long, right? And so I think that a lot of the hype was because of that, right? The initial hype was because of that. So let's get into the spiritual aspect, right? And peace to Mark Marcus Evans. Peace to you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming through. And Dr. Light, peace to you. Yes, I just talked about that. Where your plant food is medicine. Your medicine is your food, right? Thank you for sharing. So let's get into the spiritual, okay? So I'm gonna show you, I'm going to present this again. Present, and I'm gonna go to their website one more time. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, so here is the names, right, of the usual things that you would see here. You got one night stand, you got sloppy toppy, you got fussy hussy, you got dance hall queen, you got Hollywood hooker, you got project chick, right? And so we've heard this in a lot of our a lot of our we've heard this a lot in a lot of our music, hip hop music and stuff like that, right? So what does this promote? Like when you hear these terms, it promotes the culture of this sexual promiscuous culture, right? Now we know that the owner, she's a married woman. She has, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure how many children she has, but I know, like she's married. She's married to a black man. Like we know that, right? But that doesn't negate what a lot of people will, and like I said, it's a great business model in a sense because we know that a lot of our culture is inundated with like sex sales, right? I remember someone saying like, yeah, when taking pictures, they was like, you got to do this and you got to do that because sex sells, right? So we have to understand though. So I don't know if anyone else, if anybody else has been to Slutty Vegan, let me know. Put it in the chat. But what happens when you go into Slutty Vegan? You can go look at the videos because I think there's some videos online. Like you can go to YouTube and see the videos. When you walk into a Slutty Vegan, what do they say to you? They say a slut is coming into the building, right? Now, if you've never been and that's your first time being in a slutty vegan, they'll call you I think they call you a virgin, right? And so then when you're leaving, and there's some other things I just don't know because I haven't been in there so long, but there's some other things that they say to you. But as you're leaving, they'll call you a slut as you're leaving. Now, this is when it finally hit me how much of this spiritual dynamic happens, or what I would say is it's against the spiritual, right? So I was driving down, I don't know what street it was. I was, driving home, and I look up and there's a slutty vegan sign, and it says, when is the last time you had a one night stand? And I was like, yo, like it finally hit me how much this is like you're consuming the toxicity from the very moment you walk in there, or even before you get there, until you leave, until you absorb the energy of whatever that meal is, right? So let's say you're eating the Hollywood hooker, right? That is, there's a message behind it as you are consuming this food. Again, what does this go back to? We go back to food is a ritual. So as you are consuming something that is calling you a slut, by the way, right? It's calling you a slut. It's calling you, it's saying whatever you're eating, it's promoting the promiscuity, it's promoting the sexual culture, right? And we have to understand that food is our culture. Food has always been tied to our culture, right? Like food is a part of our culture. That's why we understand that as we are consuming whatever we're consuming, like you can say a meal right now, right? And it's linked to our culture in some type of way. You said greens, right? Greens and cornbread, or neck bones or whatever it is. Like it's it paints a picture for you, right? So when you have something that is painting a picture of toxicity, so every single bite is toxicity. That's what it is. Like as soon as you walk in and you're being called a slut, and you have the meal that you order, whatever it is, which is tied to sex culture. And then as you are consuming that food, right, there's the frequency of that. Now, also, what do we talk about when we talk about what food, the intention of food? The intention of food was never to be created in a rushed, right? It's supposed to be intention behind every meal. Now, if you go into these, this is considered fast food at this point, right? So there's not a lot of intention that is going into the food. It's really just about getting the food out as fast as possible, and basically getting as many people in and out as fast as possible. It's a fast food restaurant. And I will say this, I as a fitness instructor, people, and as a holistic health guide, people will come to me and ask me their opinion on things. And I will tell them, you are never going to get good nutrition from fast food, even if it's vegan fast food. And we are able to, as a community, as a culture, we're able to be exploited because of our lack of knowledge, right? So that is very important to understand the different levels of toxicity. And that's why I said it's number one. Why am I saying it's the number one toxic? And I know, and like I said, I will say this again and again. It's a great business model, right? It's a great business model. If you don't care about anything else, all you care about is business. Like you're like business, I'm pro capitalism, then this is a great business model, right? I'll give her that. But if you care about the wellness, nutrition, health, the emotional, the physical, the mental, the spiritual well-being of your community, no, right? Like just absolutely not, right? And I talked about it before when it came to toxic truth of veganism. I talked about that there are some people who all they care about is animals, right? And that's a disconnect. Because if you only care about the health of animals, but you don't care about yourself, then you are disconnecting yourself from nature, because you are supposed to care about all parts of nature, but you're also supposed to care about yourself. So when a person says, "Oh, I just care about the animals. I don't care about, I don't care about my health," then that's a huge disconnect, because whatever you do, whenever you absorb food, you are supposed to be caring of what does that food do to you? What does it do to your cells? What does it do to your mind? What does it do to your body? What does it do to your spirit? Because again, it's a ritual, right? Everything is a ritual. And especially how and what we do as we absorb our food. So when it comes to that, you look at the different layers. And the reason it's the most toxic because it's everywhere, right? Like it's being promoted very heavily. She's growing like exponentially, right? Because at first you could only really get it at Atlanta. Like I said, great business model. So now not only because I went and I, took a peek at her Instagram, and now she has like what you call residency. So it's basically she can go and she might not have her like I think it's like somebody else's like kitchen or something where you can she can like put her business there, but it's not necessarily her not her building, right? So let's say I had a kitchen, right, that could hold that business. And then I could come there for a few weeks or a few months or whatever and sell my product out of your out of your business, right? So you also see that she's doing that across the country as well as also as she is growing her business, like it's at the airport, right? It's at, you know, it's up north, it's in Dallas, like it's just really it's really growing. And to me, not to me, just what it is, just go look at the ingredients. Like it doesn't promote wellness, because I would be able to say, if it was a wellness on the menu, if there was something that promoted wellness on the menu, then I wouldn't probably even be bothering you like that, because I'd be like, oh, okay, well, she's also promoting wellness. She also has some alkaline meals. She also has some meals on here that are anti-inflammatory, right? But it's just equal. It to me, it's very much equal to going to um a Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, right? Because when you look at the ingredients and the things that are on there and the things that are not being said, the things that are being hidden, right? That's very important to understand. So to me, what is going to happen, right? And I've said this before, is that we're going to get to a point where, because there's so many people who are going to be vegan, but they're going to be vegan off of junk food. They're going to be vegan off of toxic foods. Then veganism, which, that's why I don't call myself really a vegan anymore, but veganism is going to be deemed as, see, those people are vegan, but they're still getting this disease. They're still getting heart disease, right? Because I just showed you that a lot of these ingredients still promote inflammation and disease in the body. So you can't stand by those things and those ingredients and say this is something that promotes veganism. And then if that is the case, if you said, I'm just saying that this is a product that is for a transition, you can't say that, because you want people to continue to come to your business, right? And from a spiritual or African perspective, and let's just take it to the spirit, really to the spiritual perspective, right? You have to understand that anyone that you work with on a spiritual level, it's all about you being able to take accountability for your own self. That's why I tell people all the time, yeah, you can go to a restaurant, a vegan restaurant, and get something, like you can go and get a salad or whatever, but you still have to understand, how is your food being prepared? Who is the person preparing your food? Are they are they transferring their energy to your food? And then you got to worry about what ingredients are they using, right? So there's so many things that things are being broken down to. So for example, if you see something that says it was made with vegan mayonnaise, right? There's so many different types of vegan mayonnaise. Some of it has canola oil in it. Sometimes some of it has grapeseed oil in it, right? So you really get to the heart of it when you just fix your own food and prepare your own food, because the truth is you are never going to be able to bypass every single thing. And I dislike one of the statements that I dislike the most is when people say, well, you just eat it in moderation. Toxicity in moderation is still toxicity. Understand that. Toxicity in moderation is still toxicity. All right. So, and somebody the other day, they was like, well, yeah, it's like a slow death versus a fast death, right? And it's always up to you. Like it's up to the person. I'm just providing the information, right? I'm just providing um the tools, right? That you need. You ultimately have to do the work. You ultimately have to be the person who absorbs the information and say, okay, I have the knowledge. Now, what do I do with this knowledge, right? What do I do with this information? Because now, right? And so, with that being said, I'm not going to stay here too much longer. But I do appreciate everyone coming out. And peace, peace. Good to see you. Yes, yes, same diseases as meat eaters because, when you have those things, those ingredients, those chemicals that are going to be in the food, right? You're gonna, and lack of knowledge, right? Balancing whatever we do. And that's ultimately what we're striving for when it comes to these conversations. It's never like I'm trying to like diss anyone or diss anybody's eating habits or anything like that. It's really a space of I want better for us, right? I want better for the future generations, and if if we are going to if we are really going to strive for better, like a lot of people were saying generational, that's why I call it generational health revolution. But generational wealth, part of that is your eating, right? Part of that is your spiritual development. It's like giving someone money, right? But if they don't have the education to know what to do with $1 million, they're just gonna like, squander the $1 million, right? And so you need to understand what actual wellness is versus what toxicity is. And I said this on the last conversation. I said the key is just to exist outside of the system as much as possible. You're not going to fully, yes, we live in this capitalistic society, but how do we exist outside of it as much as possible? One of the best ways that I exist out of it is trying to prepare my foods as much as possible. And us being able, as parents, being able to teach our children those things, right? Like our girls make a lot of the foods, right? And these are foods that are prepared with whole foods, right? So, you can exist outside of it because you have the power, right, to exist outside of the system as much as possible. And so, to me, your nutrition and your food is one of the best ways that you can exist outside of that system as much as possible. So, with that being said, I'm not going to continue to ramble on. I hope you were able to get something out of this. Of course, I'm always, you can email me, you can reach out, you can comment on the video as well. I'm always ready to assist anyone on their journey to better nutrition, to wholeness. And I do appreciate each and every one of you who've come out tonight. Listen to me, listen to this conversation. I hope that, we can continue to have these conversations like Dr. Light. Yes, we do. We need these deeper conversations and be able to call out the toxicity in our environments. If it's toxic, call it out, right? If it's toxic. So if you have anything else you want to talk about, just comment on the video and I'll be happy to have the conversation next month. Well, not next month, like this month, because we're ending our wellness conversations, our wellness topics, even though wellness is always intertwined in our conversations, because nothing is separate. But we will be changing up the topic a little bit, and so I will let you know what that is going to be. But I plan to have some really dynamic conversations. So that will most likely be next Sunday. I won't be going live Thursday, but I most likely will be going live either next Sunday or next Thursday. But of course, I will let you know. But I hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week ahead. I'll see you soon. Thank you for joining me. All right. Peace, family.